Join Tara and Alyssa as they explore the intersection of business, lifestyle, health, and wellness. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a wellness enthusiast, or someone seeking a meaningful life, this podcast delivers insights and inspiration for living your best life, because true success is about more than just the bottom line. To stay up to date on our latest episodes, be sure to subscribe and like us on our channel and follow us on LinkedIn or Instagram at The Business of Living Well. Hey guys, welcome back to The Business of Living Well. Today we sit down with Allison Grippe. She's the founder of YUJ Yoga here in Fargo, North Dakota. She has a lot of exciting stuff happening this year, so we kind of get an insight in all of that and how she's navigating this busy time.
Yeah, it was a great conversation with Allison today. She really kind of went over all of her different business ventures that she has going on in her life and how she has practiced mindfulness through that and how she's trying to bring that mindfulness into the community and into her businesses as well. And she's a very grounded person. Mm-hmm. And you can see that. And she hasn't always been that way. So it's cool to see someone who has taken themselves and really grown with themselves and grown in their businesses with Felipe as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she talks a lot about self-compassion, which I'm super excited to listen to because she's actually starting, I think, a 6-week self-compassion program here in Fargo. That'll probably be starting in the fall, she said. So we're super excited about that. I think it's just so important and something that we don't always put at the top of our list. We're in a culture where we go all the time and we're not taking that time to reflect or journal or meditate. And so she talks about some tips and tricks and how we can just kind of slow down and take the time for ourselves.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really good one for anyone who's really trying to hone in on their mental health and bring that into their businesses or even just within their relationships with themselves and with others. Yeah, so follow along. All
right. Allison Grippe, welcome to The Business of Living Well.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
We are so excited to have you. You are the founder of YUJ Yoga. You are soon to be training yoga teachers. You are launching a new business with your fiancé. You are also starting your own private contractor practice focused on women and self-compassion. Mm-hmm. You are helping your fiancé run another business.
Yes. So many business opportunities.
Mm-hmm. But I love it though. Like you're always looking for a great opportunity and you're never afraid to go after them. And I love that. And all while you're planning an international wedding in Brazil.
Yeah. So yeah, that's like the cherry on the top.
Yeah.
It's like all of these business adventures and then I get to have this sweet, wonderful wedding towards the end of the year that it keeps me motivated.
So exciting. Yeah. Okay. Well, obviously, yes, you have so many exciting things happening this year, but let's kind of start at the beginning. Can you share your yoga journey and how you started YUJ?
Yes. So YUJ is coming upon 3 years right now. And that just seems kind of wild to me. It doesn't seem like it's been that long. But I opened up YUJ in May of 2021, and we kicked it off by opening up our studio to people in the community that were interested in having a membership. Mm-hmm. YUJ, and actually the word YUJ means unity and connection. And my idea behind it came after the pandemic when everyone was faced with so much isolation. Mental health issues were at an all-time high, and people were truly looking for ways to get out and get moving and take care of themselves. I hosted a few private events, and it was right towards the end of the pandemic, and those were kind of tester events to kind of see if people were going to actually show up. And both events sold out at 40 people maximum. Wow. And so that really created a solid belief that, Allison, you can do this, and people are wanting to show up. Mm-hmm. So that really was the springing board to creating YUJ a few years later. So yes, now I have a wonderful studio. I have a team of 11 instructors that help me create amazing classes and events all over this community. And I'm so grateful to do the work too. Someone asked me yesterday if I've ever regretted opening up a business. I'm like, no, never. I'm like, yes, there's hard moments, but there are so many more joy-filled moments.
Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome.
In growing your business, because you really started from ground zero in starting your business of YUJ. What are some lessons that you've kind of learned along the way?
Yes, I think I've maybe been a little bit more daring than most people. When I was 21, I joined a young entrepreneurship program, and I learned a lot about getting over fear and getting over self-limitations that we have in our mind. And that's not that I've overcome all of them. I still deal with them every single day, but I was able to look at things that were true and not true that I was telling myself. And so I kind of said, like, I started by doing those events when I was thinking about opening up YUJ to kind of confirm that this wasn't just something that I really wanted to do and I was really excited about and letting passion lead the way. I wanted proof that people would come and people would show up. Because I think there's a lot of business owners that are very passionate about things, but they don't really think about their consumers or who's going to come in and who's going to participate. So I needed to do that for myself to confirm that it was possible to do. And once it was possible, it was like I immediately hit the ground running. I remember leaving that event and I was like, who's going to build my logo? I started a Pinterest board privately. I was like, nobody needs to know about this. I'm like, I'm just going to start saving all of the dream equipment that I want. I started looking at studios all over the world of like ideas and what it was going to look like. And keep in mind, I didn't even have a space picked out. I was like, I'm just going to put this out into the universe, because a big part of my young entrepreneurship training was just take action where you're at. Like, maybe the perfect space doesn't come along right away. Maybe you don't find the right person or the right people to help you right away, but just take action on what you can. And as soon as I got that ball rolling and started to visualize and just have fun with the planning and building something, that's when the right people came in. And that's when I feel like the universe and God conspired to just bring me to the right places at the right time to actually have a physical space. Sorry if that was a really long answer to your question.
That was so great.
You talked about just a little bit about your different classes that you've had. What kind of unique things do you have going on at YUJ? Know that you're very involved in the community.
Yeah. So I feel like that's what separates our studio maybe compared to other studios around our area or just in general. But I love collaborating with other small businesses. YUJ is built on connection and community, and it would be almost wrong if we weren't reaching out to people to work with to elevate their businesses too, because that is our mission. That's what we stand for. So we've offered Viking yoga classes at Drecker and Brew Hollow when they opened. We've offered classes at Bear Creek Winery with wine tastings and charcuterie boards. We've done a lot of classes for nonprofits. On Giving Hearts Day, our teachers chose a nonprofit that resonated with them or they've done work through, and we donated the proceeds from each class to whatever nonprofit they chose. And we see a wonderful turnaround that way too. When we can show up for all these people in our community, they're always willing to show up for us when we need that support and need that love too. So our membership base is mostly people that we've met at these outside events, and it's really cool to see so many people from different areas and different lines of work come into the studio. And when you open up a business, you don't really know who's going to come through your doors, but it's been beautiful to see that we have college students, high school students, all the way to one of my favorite students who's 70 years old, who comes consistently on a Saturday morning. So we just have such a diverse and wonderful group of people. You really can be anyone and step in.
Oh, it's so awesome.
You have a lot of teachers there, right? And you are starting this year training teachers.
Yeah, so I have a team of teachers, and everybody at YUJ has to have a requirement of a 200-hour yoga teacher training through Yoga Alliance. A lot of people don't know how yoga teacher training works and the certifications that are needed, so I won't dive too deep into that because that can be kind of a long rabbit hole to go into. But Devanati School of Yoga and Wellness, they're out of Minneapolis, and that is where I took my 200-hour over 6 years ago. And the owner of the school had reached out to me about leading or helping lead a 200-hour program here in Fargo, just like what I did a few years back. Now everything is much more streamlined than when I went through it. They have online platforms. They can do things over Zoom because the pandemic obviously shifted and changed things. But it wasn't something that I really felt called to do until I went to an informational session and I saw how many people were interested in learning more about yoga. And then after that informational session, I was like, yeah, I think I want to do this because I love sharing the gift of yoga with other people. And becoming a teacher requires me to kind of be a student again as well. I have to go back and relearn some of the material. So it's very exciting for me to go back and do that work, but also continue to share yoga in a deeper and more meaningful way.
Yeah. Pretty humbling. So awesome. When did you start getting into yoga? Like, when did you take your first class?
Yes, so I actually took yoga classes at Mojo here in town. They were at their old location at the time, kind of by, well, I guess Gigi's Cupcakes isn't there anymore, but you know where that little strip is. So Mojo was there, and I was 18, and I just took bar classes there. I didn't really dive into yoga, but there was one yoga teacher that I liked, so I'd go to her classes. So I was 18. And then I kind of took a break, and I ended up moving to St. Cloud, Minnesota, where I I didn't like my job. I got really sick, and one of my good girlfriends that worked with me, she was a member at a gym that had yoga classes, and she's like, do you want to start coming to yoga with me? And that was like my first true yoga experience. We sat and we did breath work, and it wasn't always just pose oriented. It's like we actually were learning things that mattered or that were mindful. And I became really close with the teacher. And that's kind of how I started learning more, is because I was dealing with so many different health issues, mentally and physically. And she was able to have the deep and the hard conversations with me that I needed to have. And it was super funny because after attending yoga and asking her all of these questions, I was probably that really annoying student. So when students feel bad for asking me a question, I'm like, no. Like, I was that girl, so don't feel bad. But funny enough is I went and I signed up for a yoga teacher training here in Fargo. I was like, I'm going to move back home. I'm going to go to yoga teacher training, and who knows what the future holds. And as I got into that class to tell that teacher that I was going to be moving, she actually was going to be moving on the exact same date. So I felt like she came into my life and I came into her life at a point of our lives that needed to be there. And so I don't like to talk about faith too much, but I do feel like God puts people in our lives for certain reasons. And I definitely think she was like one of the angels in my life that I was supposed to come across to lead me closer to my purpose.
That's so awesome.
I love that.
Yeah, that's super cool. Okay, if you could give one piece of advice to someone going through a big transition, whether it's career, life, personal, business, what would it be? It's kind of a broad question.
Yeah, it's weird to start with that. I think it goes back to the self-compassion work and just to take a moment for yourself amidst that transition to check in with how you're doing and how you're feeling. And even if what you see or what you find or what you explore isn't what you want to see, taking that time to feel that and give yourself space to cry, journal, let it out, go to therapy, whatever it may be, so that you can move past it. Because if you're planning on transitioning in your life to do something better or be greater or feel really good, you've got to be really clear about what's going on within too. And yeah, so that would be my advice. Just take that moment to pause and explore what you're feeling, explore where you're at.
Journaling has definitely become, I love journaling. I feel like anytime my brain is scrambled, I just want to write it down because that's how I kind of clarify things for myself. Yeah. And that's how I get to the bottom of things. And I feel like others too, that's how you can get to the bottom of things.
Yes. Especially when it comes to self-isolation. Like if somebody doesn't have someone they like feel like they can talk to, or even just like don't want to put the weight of what they're dealing with on someone else. I know for a long time I was like, oh gosh, Felipe is having to play therapist a lot because I'm putting so much on him. And I became really quiet because I felt like, oh, he doesn't deserve that, right? That's also why I needed to like seek help, because I wasn't allowing myself to be free with my emotions around anyone. So journaling can be really powerful for that reason too, is because your journal's not going to talk back to you, right? Anything you write, like your journal's like, I'm here for you, I got you. Like, you just write your little heart out. I don't care what your cursive handwriting looks like. I'm here to let take in all of the things. And so I felt like journaling was really powerful for me when I felt like I didn't really have anybody directly to talk to about what I was dealing with, or I just didn't feel like I could. And so my journal is full of interesting things. Interesting things.
I go back and read it and I'm like, oh, okay.
I read some and I'm like, that was really dark. Yikes. It's like, wow, I was really not feeling it that day.
And it's fun to see how far you've came then too. I think that's such a fun part of it.
And there's so much like duality in life too. There's dark, there's light, there's happy, there's sad. And I think looking back at your journal too, it reminds you like, okay, even if you do write something dark, like that there'll be something light that maybe appears a few months later, or vice versa. Like you were in a really high point of your life. Like right now, that's kind of like where I feel like I am at. I'm like at a really high point, and I'm like, but life is going to throw challenges. That's a part of life. And that's why, again, mindfulness is such a powerful practice, because life is going to throw us things that we don't expect. And I expect that my journal is not going to be all wedding planning and business growing and new house exploring, that eventually things are going to be hard again. And I'll be able to reflect back on these positive moments to remember that they're possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, do you want to talk about, so I know you're helping your fiance with a business right now and you guys are starting a new business. Do you want to just catch us up on that a little bit?
Yeah, so me and my fiance, Felipe, we're very entrepreneurial people. I knew this getting into my relationship with him because him and his brother back in Brazil, they own a business already and had multiple businesses there. So this last year, we manage all the Amazon deliveries here in Fargo. So Felipe owns what's called an Amazon DSP, a delivery service partner for Amazon. And so we are responsible for delivering 13,000 packages on a daily basis to Fargo and within a 60-mile radius. So we'll go out to Valley City and Detroit Lakes. And so I help him by doing human resource initiatives. And my background in marketing has helped me be able to work on recruitment as well. So I help him with recruitment to try to get more drivers onto our team. We have about 115 drivers right now. It's a 7-day operation. So we do about like 60 routes in the front part of the week, 60 routes in the back. And it's a high turnover position because I don't think anybody really dreams of being an Amazon driver. It's usually a stepping stone for people to get to where they want to go. And we see a lot of college students flood in and flood out. So recruitment is something he always needs help with. So I'm always there to do all of that and get them set up on their W-2s and all of that fun stuff, all that administrative work. But it funds a huge part of our lifestyle. And every time that we are working together on it, it's like we're building this together, but we're building a business together, but we're building a life together too. And so we've worked way better together than we ever thought.
That's so awesome.
That's a good thing.
Yes. And now we're opening up another business. So all of our Amazon drivers are required to do drug tests. Most jobs that people work with equipment or work behind the wheel of a vehicle, they need to do a drug test to make sure that they're qualified to drive those vehicles or operate that equipment. So we are opening up a drug testing franchise. It's
sweet.
Yeah. I'm like, this is not my heart work, but it's the work that I'm excited to do. And so it's going to open near Huhat in that little strip mall over there. But it's called Rapid Labs, and it gives you a drug test results within 5 minutes. All of the drug testing places we have in town take about 1 to 2 hours for results. And so having such a fast, rapid test is really great for people who need those answers immediately for their employer. We also do like alcohol. We'll be doing like alcohol tests too. So if you get in a car accident or in an injury, you're usually required to do a breathalyzer test. So we'll have those. And the fun part about all of this is that my mother is really interested in being the manager of it. And so,
that's so awesome.
It's been truly like a family endeavor. I'm like, I don't think any of us dreamed of creating a drug testing lab or managing one at that level, but because all of our Amazon drivers need drug tests, and we saw how much we were paying these other companies to get drug tests, we found a way to kind of keep that money in our circle. And it just seems in alignment with the businesses we're building.
That's so cool. That is so cool.
I love that. All you guys are taking on a lot, even with your house renovations and everything. How do you decide which new projects you want to take on? Like what's your decision-making process behind these decisions of like when you even started YUJ and
Felipe and I are very entrepreneurial, and so we come to the table with a lot of ideas all of the time. The fact that we've just taken action on a few businesses a few businesses seems like a lot, but with the amount of ideas that we come to the table with quite often, I'm really proud of us for solidifying the ones that we saw the most potential in, or that we could put the most energy to and feel good about it. Felipe grew up with a grandfather who worked in logistics and ran the bus systems in Brazil. His father took over that business, and logistics has just kind of always been in his blood. He raced cars, he's worked on cars. So this just felt in alignment with what he already enjoyed doing and what he knew very well. And so it was like, yes, let's take action on this. And the risk versus reward, the reward was much better than the risk for us at that time in our life. So it made sense. And same with YUJ. I was teaching at multiple studios and gyms, and I think it's a little bit better now that there's more yoga studios that are open, but at the time I was making like $14 a class, and a lot of the gyms that I worked for also wanted me to teach their style of yoga. And so authenticity and personalization kind of goes out the door when you expect someone to teach a certain way. So my risk versus reward was, okay, if I open up a studio and people come, I can be authentic to myself, I can help people, I can feel good, versus like the risk is that like it just doesn't work and I get stuck teaching at a gym again. But for me, it was like I didn't want to get stuck there, so I was willing to take that leap. And then obviously with the Fastest Labs, that's just been kind of a baby that's been born from the Amazon business. But it literally just makes sense because financially, the amount of money that we paid for the drug test was about the same money we need to start the franchise. So long term,
so awesome.
As long as Amazon is something that we continue to do, that business will continue to flourish our life.
So cool. So, okay, I know you said that you guys work really well together. How do you ensure that you're still taking intentional time for yourselves as a couple and it's not all just business and work and that kind of talk?
Yes, I feel like maybe it's like I'm just maturing or just getting older, but short-term gratification, it means very, very little to me versus long-term gratification. Knowing that Felipe and I are engaged and kind of in it for the long haul, I don't expect us to like have these super bougie romantic date nights all of the time. I really look forward to the large experiences that we want to create. At the end of the day, Felipe and I will watch YouTube videos of people who are traveling all over the world. We want to take big trips and spend a large amount of time in certain locations exploring. And we've been able to do that. We spent a month in Brazil recently and we're able to take that entire month off from work. We could work remotely a little bit, which of course we did as business owners. But for the most part, we were able to spend time with his family and spend time on the beach. So instead of having these short-term moments, although we do still, go out to dinner and enjoy those things. Maybe just not as often as what most would want or would expect. But we both dream very, very big and we find larger opportunities to spend time with each other versus the smaller ones.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's super important.
Yeah, that is super important.
And to have goals too,
it's like we're building this for this reason. Like we're building this to have the freedom to take these long breaks in the long term. So every work effort feels a little bit more effortless knowing that we'll be able to do these things. And we've proved to ourselves that we can.
Yeah.
So that belief system, again, is there. It's like, oh, yeah, I've seen that we've been able to go to Brazil and take a month off. So instead of just envisioning it and imagining it, it's like, no, we envisioned, we took the action, and the result came into fruition.
Yeah. And you don't really know until you try something. Like new businesses, you don't know until you try. Like you're even YUJ, you don't know until you try.
Yes.
And that's why you tried the trial
It's
classes.
so scary. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, I tried those trial classes, but offering classes on a membership base and having a brick and mortar store, like that whole first year, I was scared. I was like, what if people stop coming all of a sudden? And, things are going good right now, but are they going to go good forever? And I was always looking for something that was going wrong. And now going into year 3, just having so many good people around me for the last 3 years, I feel like I believe in myself a lot more than I did back then, because I've just heard so many positive things about the studio for the last 3 years. But it's like 3 years of people affirming to me that things are going well and they like coming for that.
Like you have imposter syndrome.
Yeah. And year 2 was a lot of that. I actually went to a therapist because I felt like things were going so well and that I wasn't deserving of those things. And I think we'll talk about it maybe a little bit later on in the podcast, but that's how I got into self-compassion work and taking that time to show up for myself, because I was really good at pushing the good away and I didn't want to do that. And so I luckily found the resources to let that good and that love in, and it's been a night and day difference for my mental health.
Well, then that's a good leeway into that. You have attended a couple women's retreats, if I'm not mistaken, right? What led you to kind of explore this area of well, is it yoga or mindfulness?
It's mindfulness. Yoga is ancient practice that has existed for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It's rooted in practices of mindfulness. Buddhist construct works in both areas, but self-compassion was something that I decided to invest in after going to a You Flourish event. I had met Mel Dahl. She is a therapist in Moorhead, and she studied under Dr. Neff, who is the doctor who did a ton of studies to learn about self-compassion, how it can be measured, and how we can practice it to find true belonging, not just in circles and in communities, but within ourselves. And I kind of talked about how you had brought up imposter syndrome. I was pushing away a lot of good things, and there wasn't really any reason for it. And so I sought out help, and Mel Dahl was leading a 6-week course on self-compassion. And so I signed up for it, and I did it with, I think there were 6 other women, all different walks of life, all different ages. And we would meet for about 2 to 3 hours every single week, and we would practice self-compassion. And it's like, what is that? We would basically start our sessions by talking about, there'd be like a topic that we would talk about, an area of our life that we either felt good about, or maybe we actually felt really discerning about, something that we didn't enjoy. And then we met it with a sense of self-compassion. One thing I think, as someone who is always very productive and is an overdoer and likes to work and likes to build something, is that I don't really take time to process some of the emotions that I'm feeling, or even some of the self-doubt that's there. I just start working through it and pretend it's not there. So for me, it was a great opportunity for me to sit down and be like, okay, this is an area of my life that still feels really hard or really difficult. Like at one point, I felt really hard to be loved. And this had nothing to do with Felipe. Right? Yeah. It had everything to do with what I believed love had to look and feel like. So I would talk about that at the beginning of these self-compassion courses, and then we would take time to kind of meditate or do an activity in the group that would confirm that that belief was not true. But until you feel it and you actually sit there, you can't heal it. I always say feel it to heal it, because if you just keep suppressing it, it's just going to get deeper and deeper. And when you do this with another group of women that also are going through similar things, or are also really high achievers, and they're also dealing with these self-limiting beliefs and doubt, there's a sense of belonging that's created in those circles. It was like, okay, I can feel this way and still be successful, or I can feel like I can't be loved and still have a beautiful relationship with Felipe. And this girl across from me is divorced, and this girl across from me has never had a relationship. We can see each other because their pain meets my pain regardless of the situation. So I could go on and on about this, but it was truly transformational. Those 6 weeks changed my life, and those 6 women that were in my small group, I see on such like a human level where it's like no expectations, no judgments, nothing. It's like I just see them for who they are. And I think most of us, when we walk out into the world, if we see somebody's disgruntled or angry, we usually like, oh, I don't want to be around them. We don't usually look deeper and see the hurt that may be there or the help that they need.
Yeah.
I feel like, people are mean to us sometimes, and we always just take it for what it is instead of like what's going on in their life and what that's making them, feel like that way.
Yes.
Right,
or the same goes for ourselves. When you're mean or you're reactive or you do something and then you're like, oh gosh, I'm an awful person because I yelled at my cat today. Or I got really upset at a coworker that was driving me crazy. And then you just like carry that shame with you into everything that you do. You're going to show up at the gym differently because you're like, well, I'm not worth showing up for because I reacted that one time.
Yeah.
And so that's why self-compassion is such a powerful practice, because we all are negative to a certain extent. Nobody is just walking around, just super happy and loving themselves. Maybe if they've done this work like crazy. Yes. But even Dr. Neff and the people who have come up with these studies, they know that they have self-sabotaging behaviors and beliefs and thoughts. And so they need to practice this work consistently. So mindfulness is a muscle. You have to flex it every single day if you want to become strong in it.
Can you give us any like tips and tricks, or how are you putting self-compassion into your daily life?
There's a lot of mindfulness and self-compassion practices, which I love, right? Because I am somebody who's a yoga teacher, so I love meditation. Meditation is something that comes very easy to me because I'm a very relaxed, slow individual. I get a moment to rest, I'm like all about it. I'm like, set me up in a corner with a cozy blanket and tea, and I will meditate happily. Yes. But for a lot of people, meditation doesn't seem accessible, or it seems maybe difficult or hard. So there's other practices like going for a walk, or stimulating the vagus nerve through gentle movement, or vibration, sound bowl therapy, or somatic breath work, or doing talk therapy, getting in circles again, like where you feel like you belong and realizing that you're not alone. There is so much healing that can happen in community when you're around the right people that truly support you. So mindfulness can be practiced in so many different ways. My favorite part of going through the 6-week course was that every single session did include a short meditation. And so even if you were completely new to it or didn't like it, it was short enough where you could still take a moment to pause, which is the most important part of all of it, is that self-compassion. You have to show up for it, and you have to pause, whether that's for 30 seconds or 1 minute, to begin to create what it is you're seeking.
I feel like we're so go, go, go that it's sometimes hard to pause. So when you intentionally put a pause in your life for yourself, I feel like that's so healthy.
I think it is, because I've seen the benefit of it, and I've seen the benefit for other people too. And even before I walked in to do the interview, I sat in my car for 2 seconds, and on my whole way here, I was like, oh my gosh, what if I stumble over my words? And, oh, Allison, you did this once and you felt like you were a disaster. Or what if your hair's in your face and you look ugly and this is crazy? And I was like, I took that extra 2 moments in my car and to be like, you deserve to be here. Today's a beautiful day.
And recognizing those thoughts, I think, too, is so important, instead of just going down this hole of negativity. And
a lot of us are wired. So there's actually what's called the negativity bias. All of our minds and our brains are wired to seek out the negative. And it's our mind's way of keeping us in a state of survival. Fight or flight response is based in survival. But most of the things that we're trying to fight or flight from are things that are actually not tied to our survival whatsoever. For example, you have a really hard day at work and you're being called to go, I don't know, I heard this from a mom the other day. She's like, I had to go to work, but I also had to go pick up my kids from school. Like, what was I going to do? It's like, that's really not a life or death situation. but it's bringing her to that elevated place where her cortisol levels are just shooting through the moon, and her mind, it instantly goes negative. Am I a bad mom if I don't pick my kid on time? What if I'm late for this or whatever? Am I going to be able to get into that appointment? How much is it going to cost? And her mind will just start going. And sometimes that just feels like overwhelm because we are so hardwired to see what's negative. So being able to, actually reflect on what is the negative thought that's happening there and how do I move past it, that takes time, because a lot of us just have minds that are always wired to see the negative. And that's, again, why mindfulness is such a powerful practice for everyone and anyone, because we're all human and we're all in that state of negativity bias all of the time.
Yeah. And you're kind of building a business off of this, for private contracting, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I went to that 6-week course that I told you about in self-compassion, but then I took the next course, which is called Mindful Self-Talk. It's about rewiring the things that we tell ourselves on an everyday basis, like how I just gave you a lot of examples. And then I went on a women's retreat with a small group of the women that had done this work as well. And so we got to dive a little bit deeper and really get into the nitty-gritty science and the deep work behind it. And after I finished that, I went home and I was like, yes, I want to hold space for other women to do this the same. So I'm just starting my own contracted business. It's not going to be under the yoga studio because this is mindfulness and self-compassion work versus like a yoga flow or breath work. But I want to start offering my own 6-week courses to guide other women through it. The women at Border States here in Fargo, they have asked me to do women's retreats for them. And for the last few cohorts that they've had, they invite me back every time to do a lesson on self-compassion. And they are always like, when are your cohorts? When are you going to offer this? And again, this goes back to YUJ too. I hosted those events to create a strong belief system. Those women really created that belief system that, oh, okay, people do want this and they are going to show up. So then, like I did in the past, I took action because I had that belief again that I could do this. And I really I think this is my heart work. This is what I really want to put more energy and time into. Yoga has its place and that's not going anywhere. That's like unwavering. But this also has its place. I think when you put the two together, you have magic. Like that's where big shifts can happen.
I feel like we could talk about that piece forever. Do you think this is helping you with all of these transitions and big events? Like, how else are you staying organized with all these businesses and not getting overwhelmed this year with all the planning?
I feel like experience has helped now that I'm getting into like year 3 and I've done so many events and I worked with so many people and different locations. I kind of know how to prepare myself or ask the right questions to make sure we can have successful events. So that's become a lot easier than when I first started. I feel like if I was doing the self-compassion work and wanting to do contracted like 6-week courses, there's no way I could have done it all at that time because everything would have been so new. And yes, the self-compassion work in my own life keeps me super grounded. I have dived in a little bit deeper, and Tara Brach is her name, but she is a leader in meditation and understanding Buddhist constructs on self-compassion. And she leads lectures at universities all over the world and is just truly an incredible speaker. Anybody can access her lectures on Spotify, and it's just wonderful. But I've dived into some of her paid lectures and her paid courses. And for me, just to like listen to a podcast by her at the end of the day for an hour on self-compassion, she's like, just put a hand on your heart, like you're here. And that simple reminder in a 1-hour podcast just makes me feel like so at home and so good. So I tried to surround myself with self-compassion. Even if I'm not able to just like pause and meditate, I'm listening about it, I'm learning about it, and that time for myself really matters to me.
I love that. Awesome. With all of this balancing and all of everything you going on, you're also planning a wedding, an international wedding. How has that been for you?
It's been really great. Maybe I'm kind of a control freak, but this wedding has shown me that I can let go of control a little bit. Felipe speaks Portuguese, and having a wedding in Brazil means that he has to do a lot of the communication. So he will speak Portuguese to our wedding planner, and they will have conversations about prepping everything. I had mentioned that I went to Brazil a while ago, and when the last time that we were there, we did like our wedding cake tasting. We tasted food, so I did get to be a part of like the decision processing. But Felipe's pretty much had to be the main communicator. And for a while, I was like, oh no, like what if I don't get the right flowers? And what if my makeup and hair looks botched on the day of? And I've really just had to kind of like let go that maybe things aren't going to go as I visualize them or as I plan. Who knows, they could go better. But I'm just so excited to have all of my family and my friends in Brazil, and being able to bring my parents to Brazil. They're like so overjoyed and so excited. I'm like, I could look like I was wearing a potato sack and my hair could be humid to the sky. And as long as like my loved ones are around me, I think I'll just feel on cloud nine. So anything on top of that is going to be wonderful. But Brazilian weddings are a whole nother level of wedding compared to weddings here in the United States. So I'm also very excited for my friends to experience that, because we have two bands and a DJ. And the food that we have 9 desserts plus a wedding cake, 4 different meal options, like, and then there's like late night bites, which you could choose all these different like wonderful Brazilian meals, but we have those intertwined into the actual entrees. So I chose like burgers and fries like at the end of the night. But it's just going to be a giant party, and everybody dresses up in like evening gowns. So it's just just a whole nother level. So I'm also excited for that, because I never thought I would have a wedding a wedding like that ever in my entire life. So it'll be fun. It's actually funny, the wedding planner thinks I'm so low maintenance because she's so used to throwing such extravagant weddings, and I'm like, I'm glad that I can be that for you.
Exactly.
I'm the opposite of Bridezilla. So
that's gonna be so fun.
So thank you for coming here today and talking with us.
Me.
You're always a light to be around, and I love talking with you. And we're always going to end with the same question. So what does living well mean to you?
Living well to me means living in the present moment and living by the word. I love this word. It's called metta. Metta means love and kindness. And when we live through the word metta, we go out into the world and we look for things that we love, and we look for the things that are kind. And then self-compassion is the added piece, where we can look for that love and kindness within ourselves if we're willing to heal and feel the things that are there. And then from those two things, joy comes. And so I think living well means being able to see the love in the world you live in, see the love within yourself, and so you can truly experience joy in the present moment.
What a great answer.
Yeah, such a good answer.
Yeah, I love how self-reflective you are, and just I need to do a self-compassion retreat. So let me know when you start.
I would love that. It's really fun to do it with the women you're the most close to, because you just see it's so easy for us to show up for the people that we love, and it can be really difficult to show up for ourselves, even though we know we should. And so it's really fun doing it with another person or someone you really care about, because you naturally show them compassion anyway.
Absolutely.
So fun. Just goes full circle.
Well, thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.